How about some ale? Okay, so this is, I guess, like your codex is basically like gives you kind of some context on what these characters are. So these guys, and I like this kind of stuff, man. This is what I like in games. Detail, dense detail. I mean, this is like you got to go through history and read this kind of stuff and figure out what this feudal system was like. I mean, it was very complicated. There was a lot of rite of passage and hierarchy and yeah, you know, it was what it was. I'll say that much. Very centralized. Anyway, town garrison. They're basically like guards for this for the town. Job of the bailiff for the 14th century onward. The function was taken over by the catchpole, then the night watchman, then guards on towers. The catchpole, along with the bailiff, the executioner, on their henchmen, also carried out the punishment of transgressors. They were not, however, allowed to enter freehold dwellings and palaces and houses of the nobility and ruling class, nor church buildings or the university. Wow. That's crazy. So they couldn't go to any of these. They couldn't go to church buildings, university. Yeah. That's interesting. The fact that students took advantage of it, because what happened probably was students would just go and, mess around and do what kids do, just fool around and do dumb stuff, and then these guys would chase them, the garrisons, and then they would just run into a college or a church or wherever and hide. That's kind of a funny idea. Order within the city had been upheld to the townsfolk themselves. They were obligated to report not only any crime, but just like the night watchman, to call out the hours and warn of fire, flood, or tempest. For safety, it was forbidden to wander at night with any open flame, torch, or candle into any castles, chambers, stables, barns, or byres. Yeah, bring back byres, baby. I don't even know what a buyer is. I'm looking up what a buyer is because I'm actually interested. See, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you I'm a buyer expert. Oh, it's a barn for cows. Okay. I thought it was something a lot more complicated than that. Only lanterns could be used to keep the peace at night. All taverns had to shut at sunset. In the medieval city, military service was entrusted to either hired professionals or the townspeople themselves. See? Citizen militia. Interesting. Or mercenaries, essentially. There you go. Either healthy... every healthy adult male had to serve at least a few days a year in civic guard. The city walls being divided and allocated in sections to each district or trade. Distract. Come on, TJ. Either each district or trade. And it was here that they mustered whenever an alarm was raised. In practice, the wealthy burghers bought their way out of serving in the military, leaving other men to take their turn. And these poorer men welcomed the extra income, thus gradually forming a professional municipal gendarmerie. I haven't even heard of that. Gendarmerie? Maybe that's how it's. I think it's just gendarmerie. Whatever. God, I gotta look up a lot of these words. What's a burger? I think burger is just probably like a rich, aristocrat of the time. A social class. Yeah. Inhabitant of a borough or town. Yeah. Oh, so it's a middle class. Okay. So, yeah, the burghers are middle class individuals. Interesting. And then, what is the other one? Gendarmerie? Doing a quick Google here. Men at arms. Oh, it's like a military. It's like a military force. Okay. Sorry. Now I know. Now I can use. Now those words have just been added to my vocabulary. Thank you very much. Each man had to procure the armor and weapons needed for serving in the guards and the militia, unless his guild did so. Only the rich cities could afford to have a public issue armory. The right to bear arms outside of duty was reserved for townsmen of sufficient means. Within the city walls, a simple melee weapon, dagger or knife, had to suffice. Only real wealthy townsmen wore swords, taking after the nobility. Interesting. Very different from the United States, where we have, every citizen, unless you committed crimes, can, bear arms. And that's the thing, like, in this time period, it was really just like, it was very much structured where, it was like we get everything, they get nothing kind of thing, and then it was like, the people in between. And I mean, it's very much, still kind of like that, but I think it's a lot more polarized today than it was back then. Then it was a lot more uniform, and it was much more of a system. This is, today a very different situation. Not to get too political. But, this game has, it's interesting to look at this time period's, system compared to our own. Anyway, let's continue.